Good evening and welcome to SMNI. You're watching Business and Politics. I'm your host, Antic Linkang. Our guest tonight is a veteran restaurateur, and in a larger context, our topic will focus on entrepreneurship. We'll talk to Rommel Ng, who co-founded Buffalo's Wings and Things after honing his skills in Shakey's Pizza, Outback Steakhouse, and Jollibee Food Corporation. He's also a co-founder and director of Resto Coach, which is an advocacy group that aims to inspire hearts, empower minds, and equip business owners and stakeholders in the restaurant industry. Many of them are micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs. As mentioned before in this program, MSMEs are vital to the Philippine economy. They comprise 99.6% of all registered firms. They also account for 35% of gross value added and employ about 60% of the labor force. We'll ask Mr. Ng, what does it take to succeed in business? And with entrepreneurs looking ahead at 2024 and beyond, what are the opportunities and challenges facing the food industry? Sir Rommel Ng, welcome to Business and Politics.
Thank you for having me here, sir.
Now, I'm really curious about your journey. We were talking a lot about your past. Turns out you were a journalism major. I feel like the interview could be going the other way around. Ikaw magtatanong. But tell us how you became interested in the restaurant business. I understand it somehow runs in your family, right?
Yeah, I think the DNA came from my lolo, who was a first-generation migrant from China, sir, in the 50s. So he came to the Philippines with his brothers. I think one of the brothers knew how to work with watches. So he put up a watch shop in Doroteo Jose in Manila.
Okay.
And then the other brother knew how some wood sash work, yung artistry and woodworks. So he put up a woodwork shop in Caloocan. And then my lolo put up a noodle shop in what was known then as General T. De Leon Valenzuela, which is now known as Karuhatan.
Yes.
So from that small noodle shop, I think, in beside the road, near the church, it grew into a full-blown restaurant in front of the San Miguel Beer Brewery.
I
Actually,
see.
What was known before us, up to now naman, sir, BBB.
Okay.
That place, Bulacan Beer, Balintawak Beer Brewery, what is actually in Bulacan, Polo, Bulacan. So that's where he put up his restaurant. So literally, we at night, sometimes I sleep at in the local dialect, sir, parang natutulog ako sa pansitan, literally, no? So
literally
on top,
na pansitan.
On top of it, because daytime we used to have customers in the second floor, but at nighttime it's a sleeping area for grandchildren and the children of my lolo. So
you grew up playing your lolo's restaurant. You met him and you
I still had an opportunity to be with him until I was 7 years old.
Okay.
So
do you still remember? Or?
Yeah, I still remember the shop. People making. What made us famous then was our pancit, which was which had fish balls, which are really made from scratch.
Oh, wow.
Which is sir, it's very hard to find right now, no? The recipe from China, my lolo's know-how, and we became a precursor of, the pansitterias now.
Right,
and sir, believe it or not, even in the 70s, inabot ko 70s, 80s, we were already 24 hours. So because I think economically, because the beer brewery had shifts, and then
it made sense,
the famous taxi company R&E before EMP.
Okay,
Taxi was near us, so
I remember that.
We had to serve all those people at night. So from that time, sir, when I took up journalism at the University of the Philippines, I found it necessary to do part-time work. I was a working student, so I think that also rekindled when I started working for Jollibee Foods Corporation, Grand Central Monumento branch in 1992. I think that switched me from my plan of being a journalist to
QSR,
to restaurants. At that time, sir, 1991, 1992, Jollibee was growing. So the QSR industry, the QSR sector, I would say, was at its peak. So it rekindled my interest in the restaurant industry. So after I graduated, I pursued a career with Jollibee as a management trainee. And then, as you mentioned in the intro, I worked for Shakey's as well, Outback Steakhouse, Shakey's, and then went back to dabbled a little bit. Yun yung first venture ko into entrepreneurship catering.
Right.
And then after that, it failed actually.
Okay.
And then I went back to work for Shakey's and then Outback again.
Right.
And then we founded Buffalo Wings and Things in 2009.
Wow. And then you started one store, right? And how many restaurants do you have now of Buffalo Wings and Things?
Yeah, it's really truly a blessing. Now, 2009 we started with one store in Ortigas Home Depot. Now it's called Upper Deck.
Upper Deck.
Yeah, Upper Deck along Julio Vargas. That's
Right.
where we started, and it was dinner only.
Okay.
Because we used to have day jobs, no. My co-founders and I
see.
used to have day jobs.
Okay.
So what we did
So it was on the side only
on the side,
initially.
Yeah.
Oh, but now it's your full-time worker.
Yes, I'm currently
see.
the president of the company.
Right.
And going back to your question, from 2009, from one store, we grew up to 55 stores in 2019.
Wow.
But when the
Congratulations.
pandemic hit,
Yeah.
of course, we had to pivot and
Sure.
reposition some of the stores and relocate. So now we're operating 39 stores.
That's quite interesting. But let me take a step back because I'm quite interested in your background because the entrepreneurial, I guess, work just ended with your grandfather for a while. You were telling me that none of his siblings or none of his children went into that business. Your father was a former police officer, right? And I think you were saying that your mom's glad that none of
Yes.
you became police officers. But tell me more about that. And you said it got rekindled when you went to college, had to take a day job. But why did it end? I mean, what interrupted it?
I think there's unfortunately, there's a gap between, me going into the restaurant industry and the restaurant continuing its operation, the Noodle House. It was called Delia's restaurant.
Yeah.
And a lot of people from the Valenzuela, Marulas area still, ask us about it when they see us. No?
What
when
happened?
it's going to reopen. I think there was a gap because in the late 90s, the restaurant was, the space was not ours. We tried to, I think my lolo tried to purchase it several times, but
Okay.
it was prime property. So in the late 90s, the lease ended, and ironically, who took over was Jollibee.
Oh, okay.
So may gap, sir. I was not yet ready, maybe to take on the
right.
succession to
And
run
your
restaurant.
siblings were not interested also?
No, my siblings, my uncles,
Your
my aunts.
brother, you're telling me, was in Saudi Arabia for a long time?
Yeah, he's an OFW along with my sister-in-law for 23 years. They served the royal family of Saudi Arabia, and after 23 years, they decided to go home.
Right.
He's now running a small business, water station, and of course taking care of the apos. And he's a pastor now. He's a Protestant pastor in Marulas and in Santa Maria, Bulacan.
Yeah. No, I'm always very interested in how people, get into the business, and I'm interested in also what others can learn from it. And you were telling me earlier that when your grandfather came to the Philippines from China, his skill was to cook, so that's why he got into cooking, right, or to the restaurant business. But you had options, and so you sort of like stumbled back into it, right? Did you ever imagine when you were younger that you would go into business yourself, or did you imagine that you would be instead hosting a TV program or maybe writing columns for a paper? What was your childhood ambitions when you were growing up?
Come to think of it, I really wanted to write.
Okay.
I think it was high school when I really decided to pursue a journalism course. I wanted to write. I wanted to become a columnist eventually.
You were on politics or business or
I
food?
didn't have any specific.
You just wanted to write?
I just wanted to write.
Yeah.
I knew that I had a passion for writing.
Okay.
Which I think now translated into something of a different medium, but this is still the same.
Talk about the rest of coach,
yes,
yeah.
But going back to your point, sir, the biggest difficulty looking at it now, looking back at it now rather, is the mindset.
Yeah.
Because nobody...
That's what I'm very curious about, yeah.
Nobody would give us the mindset of doing business. Because my lolo died in 78, I was only 6, so most probably he would have had the most entrepreneurial mindset. And my mom was, as I've told you backstage earlier, that she was also an entrepreneur in her own right, entrepreneur in her own right, doing small buy and sell businesses while tending to the restaurant as this daytime cashier.
Right.
So all of those things put together, you don't realize, because once you finish school, the orientation is to find employment.
Right.
Which I did, with Jollibee Foods. Sure. And, the pay was good, better than other industries. I think that was one of the reasons why I went into restaurant as well, knowing that it's going to be a more difficult path if I took on journalism.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you from being a service crew to becoming a manager and then eventually becoming of a higher position, the comfort zone comes in. Okay. That you're comfortable with the 15th, 30th salary, the bonuses, etc.
People are afraid to lose that security, right? When they go into business. Were you concerned about that, or were you more confident because you had your grandfather to look at and your mom was doing the sideline business?
Yeah, I think the reference to my past came late.
Okay.
I think I was carried away by the norm. I would say the norm, the normal mindset of finishing school, working for a good company, big company. I had great opportunities working particularly for Outback Steakhouse. I was at one time a director for Southeast Asia.
Wow. I was part of the Bistro Group back then.
Initially, initially. And then it was sold to the mother company in the US, and that's when I came back. I see. Okay. I had 2 tours of duty for Outback. So when I came back, it was already being run by the US company, and I was assigned to handle several markets. So you'd imagine the perks and the comfort zone. Because you can travel, you're exposed, you're moving up the ladder. But one time, I think I was with my friends who co-founded Buffalo Wings and Things, and we had a conversation about retirement. Okay. Because when you're young, you don't even think about retirement. Sure. Yeah. Especially in the restaurant industry, we're trained and we're trained to to work hard, closing to opening, ending inventory, month-end inventory, and such. Sure. So I think that in 2009, when we were conversing with my co-founders of Buffalo Wings and Things, the talk about retirement. Because you realize that in the restaurant industry, unlike in multinational companies or banks, you don't really have an institutionalized retirement policy or program. Sure. So personally,
you're quite young to think about retirement.
In 2009, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the problems in the industry is, of course, the wear and tear. I see. You work weekends, you work late nights, so...
Opening to closing.
I remember it fondly. I went home and tried to think about it seriously, and I said, I need to get out of my comfort zone, and I need to think of the future. And I guess I formulated the idea that the framework should be, okay, gain experience for maybe 2 decades, which was the length of my experience at that time. And then eventually the graduation should be to become a resto negociante or a restaurant entrepreneur. So that's when it started. So I opened my mind when I was invited by my co-partners to start Buffalo Wings and Things. I think that opened my mind because I just came also from a failed business. I started, catering. Yeah. So I guess that's one lesson that I can share to the viewers, that failure actually, sharpens you. Yeah.
It can be instructive. The
grit. Yeah. To learn from the insights of the failure and continue on better. All right. And stronger.